Solemen started in 2011. I went to Shanghai, where I used to live, and a friend of mine was walking around without his shoes on, raising money for libraries for poor children. And I came back to Bali and I thought, that's a nice quirky idea, I kind of like that. Took off my shoes and was chatting with Beat, a friend of mine, and I said, let's start a charity here in Bali. I vowed that I would go barefoot until I'd raised $1 million. I'm probably going to be walking barefoot into my next lifetime. We started an outreach program. This started when I met Sarah Chapman, who'd been a nurse for 28 years in England. She was driving on the back of a motorbike 6 hours a day, 3 times a week, to Karangasem, one of the poorest regions in Bali, to look after a little girl called Annie, who was 6.5 kilos at 8 years old. Became over 2 months a beautiful little child. She was playing with friends, she had toys, we got her into EPHA school for the disabled, and she was going great guns. She had a cleft palate and the Smile Foundation said, look, we'll do the operation, but you have to get her up to 12 kilos. Unfortunately, one day she just dropped down dead in the playground. She dropped down dead in the playground, and after that, somebody called us and said there was a little girl in Denpasar, who's actually here today, who had been lying on her back for 13 years. We checked her out and she'd got a cerebral palsy, and we found her a wheelchair, took her out of the house, around the village. It's the first time she'd ever been out of the house, off her back, in 13 years. We then started therapy for Neela, and she has blossomed unimaginably now. So we don't just patch things up and say goodbye, we actually keep going, we monitor, and kids kind of become almost like family. Really, the work was 7 days a week, 24/7. It was extremely long hours, all the time, and full on. Now, thank goodness, we are blessed with the most wonderful team of dedicated people who are reliable and just a joy to work with. We have a mixture of volunteers and some full-time staff now. One of the most shocking things we've actually come across, a 41-year-old guy up near Gianyar. He's been in the cage for 2 years now. When we found him, he was lying naked, without a bed, without a functioning toilet. It was just so shocking it can't be believed. And the local Banjar decided that they would put him in a cage, because what he was doing was he was wandering around the village with a knife, asking people for money for coffee and cigarettes. He never harmed anybody, but he was just a kind of a potential threat. So this is what they did. When we found him, as I said, he was living in the most desperate of conditions. He's now got a bed, we put a bed in, we fixed the toilet up, we put a pump in for the well so he's got running water, he's got a radio, and he looked $1 million better. It's our goal to actually get him out of that cage, and I think we will. The local mental hospital arranged to have him injected every month, and that keeps him on the straight and narrow equilibrium. But that was really the most shocking thing ever, and I believe there are about 200 cases around Indonesia like that. We found 29, we were told of 29 people living in a house in Denpasar with one toilet on 1.5 hours, which is a very small space. And Sarah and I went down to check it out, and it was like the House of Horrors. It was like walking into Auschwitz or Belsen. 7 of the boys had muscular dystrophy, scoliosis and developmental delay. And 2 of them were had been lying on the concrete naked for the last 10 years. Now the health department had been there 2 years previously and said there's nothing you can do, nothing they could do for these children. And when we checked it out, they said, whatever you do, don't try and lift them up because you'll break their backs, their bodies are atrophied. Sarah and I really are the type of people that don't take no for an answer. And very soon we started giving them nutritional food, and we got volunteer therapists to go in there 3 days a week. We had them each measured up for customized wheelchairs, and the kids, you cannot imagine the difference. You just cannot imagine the difference. We decided that we would try and get them out of this house of horrors. We had a weekend concert at Hard Rock, and Navikula and Superman is Dead, two great local bands from Kuta, played, and we raised $32,000 US over Saturday and Sunday. And with that money we secured some land very close to the House of Horrors, and we built 2 houses out of recycled wood. We moved the 2 families to Renon, to some government land, where they are now in beautiful concrete houses with wheelchair ramps, and they are so much better off. The old house, we put another little boy and his family who'd been living in a small house without a toilet, without running water, and now they're in recycled wood houses. At that time we were delivering food, we were doing food distribution around the island, and I was thinking, you know, this is a bit like the story of, you know, teaching a man to fish or giving him fish. And I decided, no, let's put a permaculture garden around the 2 houses, and that will provide food for the families living there, food that they can sell to the local community, and an excess food for extra revenue. And this is actually what we've done. We call it the gift of sustainable nutrition. And the gardens around these 2 houses are really state of the art. One of the most inspirational cases is a little boy called Yayasan, and he's got a butterfly disease, EB, which causes his skin to be completely cracked, and the only thing that can really make him more comfortable is Aquaphor, which is a high-density petroleum jelly with lanolin, and you can't get it here in Bali anymore, or you could never get it in Bali, and sources have dried up in Australia, so we get Aquaphor from the US and other places. Now, Yayasan's hands, his fingers are completely fused together and his toes are fused together, and so he doesn't have much dexterity, and yet he's been able to create these wonderful lamps, really beautiful lamps made from lollipop sticks. And we took a lamp designer up there, and he told Yayasan you know, how to style it up and how to create it, and Yayasan made these samples, and we've got an order for 21 of these lamps. So this is just the start. We intend to have an exhibition, maybe he can make some big pieces, and really try and create a little business for him. You'll see here today we have got the most wonderful event here, and as you can see we've had the most joyous day. You know, most of these children have never been in a swimming pool. They certainly have never seen a house like this, and we try and take the children out at least once a month for swimming, and we try and do this all the time to bring some joy, some life, some fun into their lives. So it's not all about running out to the villages and caring, and it's raising the quality of their lives as well, giving them memories, giving them wonderful memories. The kids will remember this day for a long, long time. You can see it on their faces when they go in the pool. It's just wonderful. You know, when we first meet a child or a family who are in desperate need of help, and then we see what we've managed to do after a period of time, that joy on their faces, that smile, is why I do this, why we do this. To make this sustainable, we really need funding. We need sustainable funding. We need more people out on the road, more people out in the villages every day, more therapists, our own doctors, so that we don't have to rely on outside doctors. We need medical supplies, dressings. We need money for funding our permaculture gardens, supplying of nutritional food, clothing. There's a whole plethora of things that we need, and this can only happen with your help. It really can. Our philosophy is a little bit like the starfish story. There's a little girl on the beach and there's thousands of starfish, and she's picking them up one by one and throwing them back in the sea. And a man is walking down the beach and he sees her doing this, and he comes up to her and says, "You know, you're wasting your time. There's far too many of them. You're not making a difference." And she picks one up, she throws it in the sea, and she turns around and said it made a difference to that one. That's what the soul men do.
I think my God send me people, Mrs. Sarah, so me for helping them, and I said thank you so much.
Please help Solemen. We really need your help. Please help Solemen.
Please help Solemen.
Please help Solemen.
Please help Solemen.
Please help Solemen.